Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas.
Aspects of the path. And what are those three? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good. Okay, so I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. So last week we started a discussion on the three principal aspects of the path. And the three principal aspects are renunciation, bodhicitta, and a correct view of emptiness. And these are the three pathways of mind essential for reaching enlightenment. Whether you're going through a sutra yana or tantrayana vehicles or vajrayana vehicles. Mm. And so we talked about renunciation. And there are a couple of things I want to make sure. Now, I got so many calls this week about what day is this? Sunday? About Wednesday's class. And I was happy about that because it lets me know that we are practicing. We're really getting to the crux of the matter and how we walk out our lives moment by moment. And that is actually the condition that we set up for the expression or how we understand or how we see or how we know this life, this world. You know, two people can be observing something and they come away with two different ideas of what they just observed. There's nothing different in the what has occurred in the outward world, but how we process it inwardly determines what we see, or it determines what we hear. And so all of this training, we call it practice, but really it's more like training. We're training for something. We're training to see the world differently than we do through limited perceptions of the aggregates. And this after a while, I mean, you just can't talk about it anymore unless you're just going to say the same thing over and over and over. It takes the actual shifting of appearances from the inside to really get it, to really understand. For a while, when I was living in a Chinese monastery, and I mean, I lived there for, I guess, about 6 months, but I only learned 2 Chinese words. I earned Dongla and Ula. One means I understand, the other means I really understand. That's all I learned. Um, and and it was true because nothing else really made a difference for me in how I approached life, except for some kind of understanding that emerged in the inside. The outside, the words were the same every day. The same things were said over and over and over and over again. And yet, from day to day, I understood it in a particular way, or my understanding would shift based on something that happened between the last time I heard it or the last time I thought about it, you know, until this present moment. And that's how our clear seeing comes about. It's like polishing a mirror. And sometimes when you start to polish a mirror, let's say it's really dirty, it starts to smear, where before, if you hadn't wiped it, you could at least see something. But then you start wiping it and the whole mirror gets, the whole image gets obscured and you can't see anything. And you just keep on wiping and you keep on wiping, and then it begins to clear up and you begin to see things more and more clear. And that's how it is when we learn a concept in the Dharma, because it's all concepts and constructs, even the Dharma, whatever can be written, whatever can be spoken, that's not the real Dharma, you know. But this is our intellectual way of using sounds and symbols to try to understand something intellectually. I mean, the words that I'm speaking right now, they're just sounds. But we have come together collectively and agreed that this sound means this and this sound means that. But they're just still sounds, or and so those sounds are not the thing. They're our way of trying to express or get across something that is not going to be fully expressible by our sounds. Uh, and so when we start talking about seeing reality as it is, we're simply acknowledging that no matter how we understand something, once it filters through the ordinary intellect, we can be sure that it's not the thing as it actually is. But we found some way to try to express something about what that is so that a person can understand. It's like a person trying to express their love for someone, and they can say, I love you, I love you, I love you, and I love you, I love you, I love you. And those are the words, but that's not how I know you love me, because you say I love you, I love you, I love you. I know you love me by the actions that you take towards me, and by the actions that you don't take. I know that you love me in some kind of way that is inexpressible. And although you might try to, like, you still might want to hear it sometimes. You might want to hear "I love you" sometimes, but honestly, we know that it's not in what is said, but it's in the expression in our daily interaction that lets us know whether we are loved or not. And then there's so many different kinds of love, and we have different ideas of what that should feel like, and we have ideas of what that should look like. It's like I would get upset with my husband, one of them, that because he didn't do certain things for me, and so I'd be upset, and then I'd tell him after a while why I'm upset, but I would be upset that I had to tell him why I was upset. Like, you should know. He said, well, how do I know what's in your mind? How would I know if you don't tell me? I said, that's just thinking like a man. I mean, like, he doesn't have to tell me. I mean, I'm constantly dishing out stuff for him, constantly making offerings to him, constantly thinking about what he wants, because that's how I show my love. He said, well, if you want to show your love to me, you could tell me what to do and what not to do, that so that you don't get upset. He said, that's the way you could show me that you love me. Just tell me, and then you don't have to get upset with me. And so I understand these kinds of things. Don't think that just because I'm a monk now that I didn't have to go through all of these things. I did. I just like weighed like what's easiest for me. Maybe that's not wasn't love at all, huh? Maybe I'm selfish. I mean, someone could say that. That's what my mom said when she found out I was gonna um, well, I was going to be a minister then, not a monk. She's probably turning over in her grave if she was in it now. But just to want to devote my life to ministry, she felt, oh, that's so selfish, because once you do that, you don't have time for your children. You can't give enough time to your husband. You can't do this and you can't do that, and all you're thinking about is yourself. And she had me on a real guilt trip for that for a long time. But here's the thing. Um, our lives, we have to try to see our lives through a karmic lens, and sometimes we try to look at everybody's life through the karmic lens of our life. Like what I should be doing right now, then I think that's what you should be doing. The way I think about things right now, I think that's how you should think. Um, and in that way, we uh, take something that is vast and limitless and make it trivial, and we concretize it in such a way that it becomes without life. It becomes staid and it becomes lifeless. And so then we just go through the motions of showing up at the church door, the synagogue, or the Dharma hall or whatever on Wednesday and Sunday or Tuesday and Thursday. And we do our little thing, get a little bit in our head, and go out and say, I'm going to try to be a better person. But that's not the marvelous existence of an awakened one. And so today I want to talk a little bit about the kind of view that we can develop through renunciation that is a special kind of motivation called bodhicitta. And we talk about eliminating our obscurations, and that would be our disturbing emotions and our attitudes, right? One. But the other obscuration is regarding all knowables, regarding things that can be known. And once we know things, how that knowing prevents us from capturing and entering into the spheres of the unknown that are knowable, but we are limited, or we lock ourselves off from it um, because of the obscuration of what is already known. And it's one of our biggest obstacles. We might think it's our afflictive emotions, but it's really the obscuration of the knowable, of the knowables that prevent us from entering into the vastness of what can be known. And so it makes us grasp for a right here existence, because this we know, and it cuts us off from the possibilities of knowing what else there is to know and what else there is that exists. Because if we can't see it or touch it or apprehend it in the ways that we do this, then we think it must not exist. And the only thing that keeps us from experiencing it is that we think it does not exist. Yeah? Okay. And so the right understanding of emptiness is the main opponent that destroys these two sets of obstructions, And of course, it's assisted by renunciation, and it's assisted by cultivating a attitude of bodhicitta. But the correct view of emptiness is the main opponent that destroys our obstructions. So I wanted to read something that Buddha Master has written regarding this so that we can understand it a little bit better. He said, in the midst of matters and things in their practical lives, living beings just don't understand. They regard the false as true, and they are forever and unceasingly attached to that which is false. In the end, the phenomena they are attached to are just false appearances. They end up obtaining nothing. Practitioners who have realized the holy state of prajna wisdom, though, see all phenomena, even a miraculous transformation or an oceanic congregation of Buddhas, and they understand that what they see is simply that which has a false name, that which can be called a mirage. You disciples pay special attention at this point. The term mirage is a figure of speech. It is to tell everyone that there is no such thing that exists in the emptiness of the five aggregates. Having originated through conditions, the differences among all existent things that are empty, such as between male and female, good, evil, long, short, green, red. The state of reality is inherent emptiness. It is if we are in the midst of a mirage, deluded by false appearances and attached to worldly phenomena, concepts. This is a male appearance. This is a female appearance. They differentiate between and cling to good and evil characteristics. But in reality, there's no differentiation between male and female, good or evil, or other condition-based differentiation for all phenomena in the realm of aggregates. All phenomena dependently arise from conditions. That's why they are empty in nature. All phenomena dependently arise from conditions, and thus they are empty in nature. You must pay special attention to this point. It is to tell everyone that there's no such thing that exists in the emptiness of the five aggregates. Having originated through conditions, the differences among all existent things are empty. And as to living beings in the midst of matters and things in their practical lives, they focus on what is false, such as things between men and women. They think so and so did not listen to my advice, and they treated me in such and such a way. And in so doing, they seek their own suffering. They look for trouble. This is caused by the mind that differentiates. And so they remain forever attached without letting go. Ultimately, these are false phenomena. Not one of them is to be clung to. And in the end, such people waste time without attaining anything. They totally abide in the process of arising, existing, decaying, and vanishing. Practitioners who have realized the state of holiness, however, are different. When they see phenomena, they know that it is false. This includes even seeing miraculous and strange shape-shifting, or the appearance of an oceanic congregation of Buddhas, or any supernormal phenomena, such as flying into the sky or making one's body disappear. Supernormal powers are also all illusions, and one should never be attached to them. That's why we call them mirages. Now, since supernormal powers are illusions, why are they used? After one has attained the supernormal power of defilement's extinction, supernormal powers can be a skillful means to save living beings. This refers to what Buddhas and Bodhisattvas do in their continual practice. If among you disciples here There are those who have generated a little bit of supernormal powers. You absolutely must regard such powers as a mirage, as false and not real. If you cling to illusions as being real, you will not attain liberation. And in the end, you will be completely doomed. Do not hold on to the false regarding it as true. How does one observe and contemplate things as being like a dream, like a mirage? As the Mahaprajna Paramita Sastra says, being like a dream means there are no real events, just as in dreams. You think that there is something real, but after waking up, you realize there was nothing real and even laugh at yourself. This is what was expressed in the Mahaprajna Paramita Sastra. I called someone just day before yesterday, I think, and I said, "Someone, we really don't get it." I said, "I had this dream, and when I woke up, I laughed for 15 minutes straight, and I can't even tell you what the dream was. All I know is how it left me, because there are really no words. There are no words to explain what I saw. I just don't have the words to explain it." I'm sorry. All I can tell you is like we don't we don't have a clue. But it was something like moving through a river, m- moving through a river of time, uh, and it's why I sought out this passage. You know, um, because my mind can't wrap around it. And it's rare that there's something that my mind cannot like grasp and hold as true, even if I don't understand it. I want to. I have an attitude towards being open and receptive to everything. That's beyond what I know because I want to know more than what I know. So I'm very open to knowing something. I'm very open to receiving information. I'm very open to looking at something a different way than I presently understand it, so that I can understand more or understand something better. But this was so far beyond, uh, but yet I could experience it. You know, um, and that was the thing. And I have no idea what it meant, except that reality is not this thing I'm seeing through these eyes and hearing through these ears and touching, with my fingers. Um, Reality is something other than that. And so that leaves some space here to come into a greater understanding of something because I've left room for it. And I'll just keep taking my mind back to that experience I had because I had it. That's all I can say. I had it. I didn't. The bottom line is it left me with a notion of the collapsing of time, past, present, and future, and that everything, I was like just moving through one kind of now. I mean, you could say, oh, well, it was just a dream. But how could you even dream something like that? You know what I mean? How could you even dream something that's completely out of your realm of understanding? It is completely beyond your capacity to even tell what you see. You know, yeah.
Possible understanding. Your humanness, you took that other step to understand, to feel it.
It was something that it in it accosted me. So that's why I can't right now express. I'm going to tell you, I will know at some point. When I know, remember this day when I absolutely did not know. But I have the attitude to want to penetrate the truth of it. So therefore, I'm open to whatever little, however it comes in drips and drabs and little bits of understanding, that one day I'll look and say, oh, that's so, and I'll be able to talk about it, at least more intelligently than I'm doing right now. But right now I have no reference for what I experienced, I'll say. I won't even say what I saw, because it wasn't just seeing something, it was experiencing something. But I can't go back in my history, my mental history, my remembering, and pull up anything that tells me what this was, is what I'm saying. Nevertheless, I did have the experience. And so, yes.
Came, you connected, your consciousness connected with consciousness, and then that consciousness came to you and gave you experience, and you're trying to interpret that in a human way, but actually it's really consciousness and you had a union, you had this experience together, and you're trying to understand this.
With my intellect. Right. That's why when we rely upon our intellect to tell us what things are, we uh, become limited, or we're not able to move into the reality of it, simply because our data bank here doesn't have a reference for it. But there's something about the attitudinal work we do that allows us to get into a state that some things can be revealed to us. And that's why the attitude is so important. It's more important. Let's say somebody who's only 50% good, and somebody who's 90% good. But the one who's 50% good has a deep, deep, deep motivation, to really be right and to do things right. And the one who has 90%, 90% good, like, I mean, it's just like natural to them. They don't even try. But the one who has to put forth all of that effort, theirs is a purer offering than the one who could just so easily do it because their karmic conditions are such at this point that they don't even have to think about it. You see, one is putting forth more effort. So when you do something that bothers you and you say, this is not how I want to be, you can actually count that as a joy, because you're recognizing and wanting to shift your attitude and put forth more effort towards meeting your own objective of goodness. And so that's not an excuse to like just do wrong. It is to encourage you when you fall, or when you make a mistake, or when you act outside of what you hold as your standard. The fact that it can prick you in that way is a good thing. And so one will strive harder in the future. Um, my heart was with a family that I know, and this is a person who used to work for us, and it's a really good guy, and he and his family going through a really tough time right now, and I talked about it before, I think, and I would say when I needed work done at Heartwood and I couldn't afford to pay him, he'd come over and he'd do that work and he'd have to wait months to get his money sometimes. And so now he's going through a really rough patch in his life, and I want to help him, you know. And so I've helped him as much as I actually can, financially. And I can't help him anymore. So I try to give him advice as well of what you need to do. I know you don't want to live in a shelter. You'd rather sleep in your truck. But it's 5 of you sleeping in a truck every night. Your 2 kids, your wife, and your sister-in-law, whatever. I said, better to swallow your pride and go to a shelter. And we found places for them to go. The men and the husband and the boy would go to this shelter for males, and the other 3 would go to a shelter for females. But no, they don't want to be separated. I mean, no, I said you need more intervention than I can give you. You need more help than I can give you right now, and you need to go. But no, what he wants is money for a hotel and money to buy some food. I said, you go there and that's your hotel and your food for now. And they will do all the other things that's needed to help you get back on your feet, to try to look for a job. You might have to take a job now. He had his own business and his 3 trucks, and they've been repossessed, and he got evicted. I mean, it's a hard, hard place to be in. But but I reached a place that I can't, even if I had more to give him, that it's just prolonging the inevitable and creating a worse circumstance for him. But it pains me. It pains me to say no. It what does it I could go and buy them all some pizza or food from McDonald's. I could put them up into a hotel for tonight. And I'm like, tomorrow's not promised. At least they're in there tonight, you know? But at what point, these are the things that we deal with every day, that we have to make the best decision that we can about what to do in helping living beings. And if I could just convince him that his to change his view about having to accept help by being at a shelter, that would be the beginning of the turning of this situation for him. I said, I wonder if I should find out where he is, go get him some food, and then also call the authorities, the truant officers, and they'll come and they'll take the children. And I said, oh, that's a terrible thing for the children to be separated from their parents. Now they're going to have the law all involved in their personal business. So I said, I can't do that. I called Bodhicitta and Soma, and we went through like 10 different things that we could get him to try. But this is what he wants. He wants money for a hotel for tonight, and he wants money for food. And that takes care of today. And then tomorrow, he starts going through his telephone list again to see who can give him money for a hotel tomorrow and money for food. And so sometimes we're confronted with these situations about how to actually show compassion. And I think that one way you can really know is when you have the attitude that you really want to support them because you truly, truly, truly see their suffering, as opposed to having the attitude, well, they should take better care of themselves, or well, they should do this, or well, they should do that. You know, you can be saying the very same things, but I'm now talking about the attitude of the heart, where you meet them in your heart. So sometimes we do things out here and the heart is truly in the right place, but it doesn't look so good out here, or it doesn't look like it's so much. But sometimes we can do things out here and it looks like, oh, we're goody two shoes and we're doing all of this out here, but the heart is not really in it. And so I'm saying this whole attitudinal shift that has to occur in order for the true arising of bodhicitta. And when that bodhicitta begins to arise, then we become able to be moved by, impressed by prajna. So I would say that I had an encounter with prajna that drew me up into a state, but the state wasn't high enough to be on the level that I understood through my own prajna wisdom could understand it. But I was not in my normal state, my normal ordinary state. I had been drawn up and I was in sort of like an intermediate state. It's like trying to see something and you're jumping up, looking over the ledge, trying to see what you can see. And I saw a little bit of it, you know. And so I'm not worrying about it. I know why I don't understand it. I don't understand it because I'm not abiding in the state that's necessary to penetrate those appearances, you know. And so he says that when we have these kinds of experiences, he said, just think of them as illusions. Don't think of them as something to grasp after, but just think of them as illusions. So when we look out at the ordinary world and we see things through the lens of our experience, he said, think of that as an illusion. But then when you start developing more than normal, super normal, more than normal capacities, he said also think of them as illusions. And if you don't, you'll be captured by ego and pride comes before a fall. Yeah. So he's telling us how to keep ourselves, whether we don't understand something yet or whether we have penetrated something, and there's a greater danger in having penetrated something, because then that's when our ego takes over and we think we know more than we know. And so he says, well, since supernormal powers are illusions, then why are they used? After one has attained the supernormal power of, say, defilement's extinction, supernormal powers can then be a skillful means to save living beings. And this refers to what Buddhas and Bodhisattvas do in their continual practice. If among you disciples here, there are those who have generated a little bit of supernormal power, you absolutely must regard such powers as a mirage, as false and not real. Because if you cling to them as being real, you will not attain liberation. In the end, you'll be completely doomed. Do not hold on to the false, regarding it as true. So how does one observe and contemplate things as being like a dream? Being like a dream simply means that there are no real events, just as in a dream. You think that there is something real, but after waking up, you realize there was nothing real, and you even laugh at yourself. That is what was expressed in the Mahaprajna Paramita Sastra. Any dream is not real. While in a dream it seems as if it's real, when we wake up, the dream has indeed vanished. Therefore, we dismiss it, thinking, how could it have been real? After all that, it turns out I was just dreaming. It was not real. I'm still lying right on this bed. Human life as a whole is also just like this. It's just a longer dream. Our human lives are actually a dream. Those who do not know this have not seen their original nature. If you see your original nature, even for one moment, you will know that human life is a dream. You will know thinking, it is this state that is truly what I am. Why have I been enmeshed for so long? I've been totally attached to worldly phenomena through what I can see and hear and taste and touch and smell and think. What a mess I've made of things. You will know then. Thus you must illuminate your mind and see your original nature. That requires you to search for and see prajna, to use the three kinds of prajna to cognize objects in order to realize that form which has no form, the unattainable form. So what's the three kinds of prajna? Language, prajna first. So, that's starting at zero. Like if you putting your foot on the gas pedal, all of this, that's language prajna, starting from nothing, say 0 to 20 or 0 to 30, right? And then what's the next? Contemplative illumination. Contemplative illumination. Contemplative is the operative word. So is illumination. But it means, yeah, but really taking the passage and considering the language prajna, considering the passage. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Not going in here and thinking, well, I think such and such, or this is the way I feel about it. Who cares? So it's about using contemplative illumination. You're staying with a passage that you don't understand. I'm staying with something that I experienced that I don't understand. I'm just rolling it over in my mind. I'm looking at it for what it is, until the light of the truth of it reveals itself to me. I'm just staying with that. And so a lot of times we don't grow as much as we could because we're not doing the contemplative illumination part. We're hearing something and we're talking out of our head about what we think or what we, or something we learned before, or we throwing these words together. And you're saying, just sit and what does that passage mean? In the midst of matters and things in their practical lives, living beings do not understand, and they regard the false as true. They regard the false as true. What does that mean? They regard the false as true. And then I'll read something else and it'll explain a little bit about it. Like, because you saw something, you only saw whatever you saw for that fraction of time. You didn't see the whole expansive thing from the beginning. You just got a fragment of it and you based an opinion or view or on that little snapshot of what you saw, that little bit of what you heard, or you mixed it with something you heard from somewhere else, and that's a false appearance or false understanding because it's not the totality. You have arrived at that by the coming together of things. And so it's a false appearance because it took those two things coming together to create that. And that's what it means by false. It doesn't mean that something's not really happening right now. It doesn't mean in the ordinary sense that something is not real. It just means that it's false in the sense that it can only appear when this condition came together with that condition. For that period of time, it is there. And when something else mixes with that, then it will shift and it will be something else. And when something else falls away, it will shift and it will change. That it does not have any inherent existence. That's what false means. That's one definition of false. We're so limited with words. And so don't concretely hold to words so much, just sort of get an attitude about something, get sort of a feeling about something, but don't be so tight and don't concretize. Because I tell you, if you do, you will be lost. You'll get to a place and your intellect can't go any further, and then you'll become totally disillusioned, because it just becomes like words, but it has no effect in your life. It's like saying that I am withdrawing in my life so that I can penetrate something, and then every week, several times a week, you go back to the same places you went. Then there was no point in leaving because you haven't really left. You might have moved over here, but you're still going there all the time. Your mind is still there. And so when you read this, what seems so enticing and that drew you so much, it will become very mundane and very ordinary because your mind has not shifted. Maybe your locale has shifted, but your mind has not. And so he says, this is what you have to do. You have to, if you see your original nature, even for one moment, you will know that human life is a dream. And if I don't say anything else about that experience, I woke up knowing that human life was like a dream. And that's what I was so happy about. And that's what I laughed so hard over, and it was like this life, where is your sting? It had no sting. That was a couple of days ago, though. Some things have come up since then that has me looking again. But you have to tap it, get off, tap, get off, tap, get off, and you'll stay longer and longer and longer, and one day you'll be fixed. You'll be firm right there, but it comes bit by bit, incrementally it does. So I'm trying to encourage you in your daily practice, because so that you won't look out and say, oh, there's some Dharma. Oh, and there's a piece of Dharma right there, and there's a piece of Dharma. It's not in that way, but that as you're walking through your life, it's almost like plodding on the ground, and before you know it, you're like up here, and you don't know how you got so light that your feet no longer are moving on the floor, but you know that you have, and light becomes light. Even when you encounter something that you don't like, or a hardship, or a loss, or pain, it does not have the victory over you in a certain way, because you do actually see the illusory nature. You can see through it. So yes, it's there, but there's some way that of appearances that changes that structure so that it does not become an obstacle for you, And so in that way, you can handle anything that comes in your life in the course of a day. You can handle anything that comes. Yes.
I would ask you about enlightenment. Yeah.
Press the button.
Oh, I've asked you about enlightenment before, and I would ask you now how this conversation parallels to enlightenment or satori, or it makes a lot of sense what you're saying, that, we're bringing in all this baggage when we're looking at something. So we never really see the suchness of it. And we have to keep understanding and accepting that there's a greater meaning to whatever we're looking at. Is there a place of enlightenment where there's just full understanding, or could you speak to that a little bit?
Well, yeah, that's what Buddhism is. We might think of it as a religion, but it is the awakened. It is the awakened nature, and it's the awakened nature of each one of us. We just have not awakened to it. It's not like something that that we lost. We have never awakened to it. So sometimes they say that you were awakened and then you like came down through these layers, and that you kind of lost, you got denser and denser, and you lost your enlightened capacities, and now you're trying to get back home. Well, the problem with that for me is, if I lost it once before, how do I know that when I get back home, I won't lose it again? So I don't subscribe to that notion at all. But I think since beginningless time, I have been obscured. And I am uncovering bit by bit. And I will ultimately arrive at my totally unobstructed nature. And how I know that I'm moving towards that is how much things affect me as if they are real rather than illusory. So something can happen in my life, but because I'm not just concerned about this life, renunciation has to do with renouncing this life like that's all there is. So in the beginning, the teachings talk about working for better future lives. That's in the beginning. But when you go a little bit further into the immediate teachings, like you don't wait for tomorrow. It's a hop along, Cassidy. Well, I put off for tomorrow what you can do today. Yeah. So then one starts thinking about how there can be a shift today in how I am and how I live my life and how I relate to people. And then you go a little further. Suppose there is no future life. I will have lived peacefully in this life, And so when one starts to do that, they start to back away or loosen their hold on the things that cause their mind to be perturbed. And so the thing that you used to couldn't tolerate, you find that, yeah, no big deal, no big deal. And so in seeing that, that gives us not hope, it gives us an example of how we can understand the illusory nature of things. Because I know that some things used to really, really upset me. Now, not so much. Doesn't mean it's not still happening. It's just that it's not worth my energy or my understanding or my compassion for the one who does that thing, has grown. So I'm not offended or I'm not angry about it. I can see that they suffer. That's why they do that, and if they choose to suffer, that's not a lot I can do about it, but I don't have to suffer because of it. And so I don't suffer. So when do I decide when do I stop suffering? Is when I decide that I don't have to, relate to that person, relate to that situation in that way. So that's me renouncing. And so as we begin to renounce in this way, life starts to be easier for us. We find ourselves happier. We're more content. We can be with somebody or we can be by ourselves, and what is that? that commercial? Shingles doesn't care. Whenever something bothers me that I need to work on, I remember that commercial. Shingles doesn't care. And after a while, we just get, we don't have to try to change everything. Change the things you can, what things you can't, you live with them or you don't live with them. I mean, any one of those three choices. And it just becomes what you do in the course of your day, and you don't have to make something out of it. We're such drama queens. We make a drama out of everything. And you start just giving that up. And I tell you, clear space when you give that up because you're loosening your hold on this world as being all there is. And once you loosen your mental hold on that as a truth, then you start awakening to a greater truth that can be known here and now. And we don't get to know it all 100%, but just incrementally here and there. The scenery starts to shift. It starts to change. The feel is different. One day you just wake up feeling benevolent and compassionate, for a situation you actually had no patience for yesterday, And so that's how we gradually change. So we should be looking for these shifts, looking for these changes, and rejoicing when we discover them, Don't always just be looking for what we're doing wrong. That'll make you dull, dull, dull. Don't always just be looking for what you do wrong. Also look for what's shifting and what's changing. And then shed contemplative illumination on that. How did that happen? How did that come out? So that you know. Then when you know, you can apply it to something else and apply it to something else and apply it to something. Before you know it, you're just scrubbing yourself all over, And so that's how we shift, just gradually, and having great joy in this, having great joy in being peaceful throughout the day, having great when you cast down that urge, to wig out, just say stop it, within, and then you manage to do it. It feels so good, Now it doesn't mean like you just run around. Guess what I did today? Doesn't mean we do that. But really, I'm saying having appreciation for our effort. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? Have appreciation for the effort that you put forth. And you will find something so uplifting in that you will want to put forth more effort because the prize is worth it. You will want to shift and you will want to change because of the pleasantness that you encounter when your mind turns in that direction. And you will see how powerful it is and how fearlessly it allows you to walk through life. And that's how the shift comes. So now that's how the afflictive emotions start to drop away. The afflictive emotions start to drop away. The openness to this newness of life starts to take hold. And so now one is beginning to see the emptiness behind all situations. I'm seeing my part in creating this right here. What part I'm contributing to making this right here. And as we start withdrawing from that, like no need, then we start to see that everything is empty. This is all mind conceived. How we hold it determines what structures we build. And once you know that, nobody can take your mind. Only you yourself. So nobody can make you mad. Nobody can put you down and nobody can make you feel bad. You know, only you yourself do those things to yourself. And so life becomes different. The various afflictions begin to fade because there's nothing to be attached to. Since beginningless time, living beings have truly been engrossed in a dream state. And because they are deluded, they are attached to various afflictions and asleep. They become muddled and entrapped by the 6 types of extreme misfortunes. They crave and are attached to forms, sounds, smells, and tastes, unable to awaken. If they were to awaken one day, they would immediately know that it has all been unreal and would dismiss it with a laugh. The same is true for this world of living beings in the midst of matters and things in their practical lives. One first confusedly regards the false as being real. Now you hear he's just repeating again and again. That's that inculcation. He's repeating again and again. One regards the false as being real. When one is confused, one takes the false as being true. Some disciples have such strong attachments that they forget about the importance of Buddha Dharma. And later they will think, oh, I was wrong. So this is all about setting up a proper motivation to listen to the teachings. Proper motivation means setting our heart to understand them and to penetrate them, rather than to be something that that we debate upon. First, there is the willingness, the kind of attitude to try to understand them. And sometimes confusion comes in for us when we try to understand them compared to what we already have learned or what we already know. And that's where the biggest part of our confusion comes in, trying to put it up against something we already know. And that's, so we have to set a proper motivation to really listen and try to dissect and understand the teachings as they are offered. Now, if you've done that and it doesn't work, then you can set that aside. But from the onset, if we are up to debate on it, then the proper motivation is not established to have the capacity to penetrate it. So we set our heart at that motivation to listen and to try to understand the teachings, going back again and again and again and again. It says, if we set our heart this way, this becomes the source of our happiness. And if we lack such heart, we become proud or pretentious. And this brings us unhappiness and uneasiness. I think we've been studying I think we're on page 217 now. That's where we are in the book, and we have 500. It's right now. It's about 550 pages. But if I go back to when we first started, that how dull our understanding was, and where we are now, those of us who've been with us for like almost 2 years, I can say that the quality of our lives have so greatly improved. And these are intangible ways that we experience our day-to-day life, you know. So I don't have to go far beyond what happens to me in the course of a day to see how my Dharma is working for me. Because it has to do, it's like the more I renounce this life, the more life I have, but without effort. The more I renounce, the more life I have, but without effort. And it is like a dream. And I do expect to wake up from this dream. Here and there, we work on something that we call the form body in our practice. And that form body, when we do our meditations, we kind of set a kind of this is like a spiritual pride. It's kind of a dignity. We set a dignity on the potential of what we can achieve. It has a place of dignity for me that makes me something more than an ordinary human being, because there's a certain dignity that I want to exemplify in this world. A certain kind of accomplishment that others have accomplished. So it's possible for me too. That's what I hold fast to. And that I can achieve that through these practices of maintaining dignity as I go throughout the day. These combined practices of wisdom and method, and finding the right method that helps me to develop that kind of dignity. Setting a proper motivation to listen to the teachings, and then to walk them out, experiencing that certain kind of dignity. Mm-hmm. And these become objects actually of our compassion. And as that compassion grows and grows for others, we like just forget about ourselves and we concentrate on others. And it's a natural thing, not a forced thing. It's just a natural thing. And its fruit is happiness. So when you see people who are unhappy, you know that they're locked down and concerned about themselves. But when people forget about themselves and concentrate on others, there's like a brightness, there's a happiness, there's like a vastness. Yeah. And that's scratching the surface, getting closer and closer to your original nature. You are that. You are that. So I know that this past week was a week of people really looking at deeply, because of the calls and the emails that I got from last week. And I just want to say, keep going that way. The last thing I want to say is to think about what it means to take refuge. If you could think of refuge as safe direction, that would be closer to it than some other ways that we think about refuge. It's like safe direction. So he says that it's like a finger pointing, saying, go in that direction. That's what taking refuge is. It's ennobling, and it brings us to a vast view of life that we call marvelous. I think that's all I want to say today. That we're becoming refined, ennobling, dropping off our crudeness, and becoming real. Yeah. So go and bless somebody this week with your Buddha nature, right? All right. Then can somebody close for me?
May we freely offer our merit to all beings, those we see, and those we don't see, those known and unknown. May we continue to remove our obscurations, our delusion, until we see clearly with the empty eyes that everything is cause and condition. And the great benefit being when we can remove ourselves, we free ourselves from others, from ourselves, we free others from ourselves. And that right there is the purest benefit of compassion we can truly offer.